Okay, so we've talked a lot about the fundamentals of the economy, money, the scarcity of goods and services, resources, and then now a very important part of the economy is obviously work, earnings and occupation. So this is how the economy goes round. The factories and businesses and agencies, they produce, but people have to work at these factories, agencies and organisations to earn money, to buy, and then pay taxes, and the government can spend on the public good, etc. So you can see that work is central to the whole system working. The economic system we have is centred on people earning money. In the future, who knows what will happen with robots, etc. We will have to change the economic system probably, where people don't need to work and the system works in a different way. But at the moment, the economic system, work is essential part of the system. And this also, when the system goes wrong, is how we feel the pain through earnings. The level of earnings go down, or jobs, losing jobs, etc. So always people are obsessed with their jobs and their earning potential. And the economy is mainly in a crisis because of that. If it's producing the jobs and people are able to earn enough, the economy is going well. If it's not going well. Now we're going to think about why people choose jobs. People don't always choose jobs for money. Obviously, this is a very important consideration. We need a certain level to buy a house, to have a family, to go on holidays, etc. But there are other important influences in the jobs market. And when you have to work, you will understand these better. Even if you're earning a lot of money, if you're spending all your time working away from home, the work's horrible, it's dangerous. You can have all the money in the world, but the reality you live in is not so beautiful. If you spend all your day down in the coal mine, and you spend all your day feeling dirty and horrible, you might have a lot of money, but that's not going to make much difference to your quality of life. So we're going to look at other things which influence people's choices of a job, why they work, why they choose a particular work. We've got obvious ones like security of position. That's become more and more important in the modern economy because the economy's become very precarious. So jobs aren't for life anymore. So people are worried about job security. Often the choice is to work for the public system, not because people have got this huge desire to serve the public or to do a job, or because they pay so well, but because they've got a sure position. They don't have to worry. The anxiety of losing your job really is powerful. You're powerful also because of your position. If you're worried about your job, obviously this gives your boss a lot of power over you, and you feel very powerless. And also because if you're not working between jobs, you might be losing a lot of money. If you were making a lot of money, the money you lose between jobs balances it out anyway, so you're probably better off in a fixed position rather than having a wonderful secure position that lasts 1 year and then you spend a year looking for another position. Often the very important jobs have less security. Unless you're very successful, being successful at your job can give you more security, obviously. But managers and management directors have less security. And then there's the satisfaction. We can think of doctors, nurses, people that help other people. But also, if you love, cars, and you work as a designer of cars, that will give you a lot of satisfaction. Very important consideration. Missing in many jobs. Think of factory jobs, accountancy. Maybe accountancy does give you some satisfaction, but I would imagine being, an actor or a designer, an architect would give you more, and more of the pull to be a designer is for the desire for satisfaction than anything. And then integration, so you're able to meet lots of people and be part of a community. That is really important. People get their identities from being in a community and being part of a very big, maybe dynamic community where people are moving and you're meeting new people all the time. Very important to some people. So it's not just, let's get out of the idea that wages are the main thing. I think in an economy that's going badly, wages become much more important because you've got to pay your bills, and you're seriously worried about that. But in an economy that's going well, we should see people looking for other things, for reasons to work, reasons to choose a particular job. You could say, there's a sense of progress. Don't choose a job like a hairdresser. There's no sense of progress. Maybe you could own your own shop instead of being an employee, etc. But in other jobs, working for maybe a car manufacturer, you can see some progress and you're learning new skills all the time. This is very important now, because if you're in a job that doesn't teach you much, very soon maybe your job could be done by a robot, or for some reason it's not needed, or maybe immigrants can come and they can do your job because it's not so skillful. So by choosing a job where you can progress, it kind of gives you more and more protection. If you can feel your experience and your learning has given you something else to offer. So, people go for status. You want to be the big boss or big actor. give you a lot of status, self-respect and dignity, etc. Okay. Now, one question, why would it be a good idea to specialise in a job? So, what do we mean by specialise? Well, if I'm an expert on marketing and I specialise, maybe I really concentrate on car marketing, the car market. In Turin, years ago, it was just cars, so people became specialists in the car market. Maybe you can say I'm a specialist because I'm not teaching general English, but I'm teaching economics in English. So I'm teaching the English economic lexicon. And we have lots of, professions like doctors become specialists in, heart problems, or etc. Translators become specialists in legal translations. So why would it be a good idea to specialise? Right. Mainly specialising means you can ask more money because you really got good at that specific niche, and not many people can do it. Maybe there's a lot of English teachers around, but not many people can teach economics. So specialising can give you or higher wages or more protection in a way. But it could also be a danger, because if you concentrate too much on a very specific narrow niche, like, translations for the car market, for if you're a translator, you just translate brochures for cars. And then that becomes obsolete, or maybe technology comes along that does that. An example is Turin again. We've moved away from cars. All the people specialising in cars are finding that all that effort to specialise has given them a disadvantage, because they've forgotten all the general stuff. So it can lead to substitution. If you're general, maybe you can move around a bit more. You can maintain other skills and other areas. Also, new technology can create demand for different skills. And this we're seeing a lot with technologies going fast. Technologies, we call them disruptive technologies, that come along and they change everything. They create new, so if you're specialising in something and then there's a new technology comes along, it just means you've got to start again. So that's the problem. If you specialise, you might have to keep specialising, keep changing, etc. You've got to keep learning and adapting. In this modern day, go ahead. So the labour market is just like any market. It's ruled by supply and demand. If we remember supply and demand, the rules, it's a bit different, a little bit different. So it's ruled by supply and demand, and there's an equilibrium point where the quantity of workers is that much and the wages are that much. So that establishes the rate for the job. But it's a little bit more controlled, I would say, by the governments. Often the government establishes minimum wages and, taxes on wages or insurance like IMPS on wages, etc. Safety, cost training. So if you take on people, you've got to train them. So it's a lot of disturbance in the market. It's not so free. But it is a market. It's a market. And we've got to see it like a market. We call this derived demand. The demand for workers is derived because it comes from the demand for goods and services. So it's not that I buy the labour that produces the table. I buy the table, and then the company needs the labour, so it's derived from my need. And the more we want products and services, the more we want people working. So that is the big problem, isn't it, with the economy? We need to maintain our expansion of the economy. We need the pill to always increase. Basically, because we need to keep working. Being without work is a terrible situation for people. So, why is it so terrible? When I'm not working, I'm not integrated in society. I lose my identity. Work gives us identity, it gives us a position amongst people, a reference point. We have reference points in our lives with the people we work for. Without work, life becomes purposeless. And so we really need work to maintain our mental stability. After some long periods of time, people have mental problems, they have depression, etc., without work. So it's so important, this work. And we have to increase the work, or we have to increase the economy all the time to maintain the work. And we're getting robots, etc., that are taking our jobs. So this is a real dilemma, isn't it? We want to produce more. There's a natural tendency for robots to take jobs because a robot does any process quicker and more accurately, more precisely, any process that's repeatable than a human being. Human beings can only bring creativity if you've got robots, computers. They can't compete with them, the robots and computers. We can only bring judgment, creativity. And so, we need to increase work, and it's a big problem. Okay. Labour must always add value to any process. If I cost £3,000 and I produce 5,000, then I'm adding value, aren't I? But if I only generate 2,000 and I cost 3,000, I'm actually taking value away. It's not sustainable. So, from this, we can conclude that the higher the wages, the fewer workers demanded. Because the higher the wages, the more we take value away from the company or the agency or the organisation. This is a dilemma. Again, we want high wages, we want people to have minimum wage, that's very good quality, gives us good quality life, but then we have fewer positions because it's not sustainable. That is another problem. So the supply of labour, which, if we remember, goes like this, supply goes in this direction. As wages go up, people work harder. But actually, it can go back because as wages go up, people actually stop working so hard and they start taking more time off. And that's been noticed by economists, that the higher the wages doesn't necessarily motivate people. Motivates people up to a point, but after a certain point, people start reducing their labour. As they prefer to spend more time at home or, doing other things than work, having free time. People prefer to have more leisure time. So we can say at some point wages start demotivating workers. So why would labour demands change? So why would the demands for workers, for an agency to employ people change? It could be changes in consumer demand for the product or the services. Again, it's a derived demand, so the more we buy, the higher the quantity of work is required, and vice versa. It could also be a change in productivity. If companies find new techniques or use, training schemes to improve productivity, they find a way to improve productivity, that can reduce the quantity of workers. Changes, or even, in for example, mining for coal. If it becomes very difficult to extract coal at some point, it's gone so far under the ground or the rocks become very hard, it says maybe you need more people to extract that. So because the productivity's gone down. Changes in the price productivity of capital. Think about robots and technologies. If robots become cheaper, you're going to see them much more in factories or in everywhere in life, and we won't need the human element so much as we do. I'm just thinking of the supermarkets. Now the supermarket, they've got these new techniques of you serving yourself. So they use technology. So you go and buy everything and you pay a machine, and then you show the computer your receipt as you leave. and there's not the need for the cashier, the person at the till. That probably is changing the productivity, changing the price and productivity of capital. So they're finding ways that are cheap enough to replace, to substitute the human employee. We can't stop that. We can't stop that in a free economy. In an economy that's totally controlled by governments, totalitarian economy, yeah, you can. But in a free economy, the whole objective is to go towards the most efficient and effective way. So, that is having a big effect right now. And creating big political movements like Trump and Brexit, etc. Changes in non-wage employment costs. If the government puts taxes up on wages, or maybe like IMSS, some sort of health contribution system, pension system, they increase that. That will change the whole calculation. Remember, it's a market, so that will change the whole calculation, increasing the cost of employing if it's increased. If it's decreased, it will create more workers because it becomes more profitable to work. And it will become cheaper. Okay. Right. So we've talked about why demand for labour will change, but why would supply change? Why would more people offer their labour? Changes in the net advantage. We're not talking just about wages. Wages, yes, maybe reduced hours, more fringe benefits, so maybe you get a company car, bonuses, whatever. Shares in the company, lots of different ways. So it becomes more advantageous financially or with hours, etc. Changes in the provision quality of education and training. That is a very important aspect. We can see we really need surgeons in Italy. There's always a shortage of surgeons, or in England there's a huge shortage of doctors. But at university we limit them. They're limited in number. There's never the resources to train enough. All we need to do is open up the universities, increase the numbers. Often it's not that we're rejecting, there's not enough of the bright people bright enough to do a degree in medicine. It's not the problem. It's the resources the government need to put into the education of creating doctors is the real limit to doctors. So changes in that. Maybe if we want more entrepreneurs, business people, we need more courses on economics, on business in schools, etc., etc. Also demographic changes. So if suddenly you have a lot more, a big increase in workers, in birth, in kids, so you've got birth rate suddenly goes up, that's going to increase the supply of workers at some point, or immigrants. That big change, demographic change, lots and lots of immigrants. In England, a lot of immigrants have pushed down the wages of builders, builders, or mainly low-skilled workers, also workers in factories, people that do very mundane, unskilled work. The immigrant population have really increased the supply of this labour, fruit pickers, another example, and pushed down the wages, because we know if supply goes up, the price goes down, so the wages will go down. Okay. Why do earnings differ between employees? So, you've got obvious difference, ability and qualifications. So, if I train as a doctor, I know I should get good wages. That's an obvious one. And then you've got dirty jobs and unsociable hours. I'm just thinking, in England there were motorcycle couriers, better one, coal miners. It was a horrible job. They earned a lot of money. Not so much now, because the demand for coal has gone right down. It has to compete with green energies. But on social hours, night job as a night watchman might increase the wages. Job satisfaction. Again, people will do things, be more interested in doing jobs where they're very satisfied, and that may push the wages down, so you've got a big supply. Or the opposite, people find a job very unsatisfying. Maybe there's a lot of applications for that job, and or there's not a lot, and so the wages go up. Lack of information about jobs and wages. So this is a problem. For example, some companies, some organisations might find it difficult to communicate the offer, the job offer, and so in the end might have to offer more wages. That can be a problem. Labour mobility, people can't move so easily. If they can move much more easily, that will push wages down, because people are able to find opportunities, and so there's bigger supply. And fringe benefits. If you've got a company car, maybe you accept less wages. Or if you work, teachers are a very good example. We work very few hours compared to some professions, and so we have lower wages generally than many. Even though we work more than what is seen. So, okay, thank you.